Well, good afternoon, guys. On this March 11th, I'm at San Diego National Wildlife Refuge, and we're trying to hike up to Mount San Miguel. I think that's up that way. Whatever you call it. Anyways, I'm finally making some videos in the California Chaparral region, and I'm really excited because all the plants here are just so different from what I'm used to back in Utah. So let's jump right in and see what I can find, if I can even identify anything properly. I think I can. Now, first off, one of the most common plants I'm seeing around here, I'm pretty sure I can identify, is this one, which is Baccharis sarothroides, also known as desert broom. I believe it does grow in a desert sometimes, but it's also, without a doubt, a major denizen of the California Chaparral, especially in Southern California. It's got these really thin, spindly shoots all throughout it that are photosynthetic. It does produce some leaves, as you can see here, though I guess it tends to drop them fairly soon. I mostly rely on its branches for photosynthesis, or at least the new ones, because they eventually do turn brown. And this is a fairly tall plant for like a Baccharis, I think. It gets up to, well, this one looks like it's about 10 feet tall, and I think they can sometimes get even taller than that. One cool thing about Baccharis is that I think all the plants in the genus, or almost all of them at least, are dioecious, so it has male and female individuals, which is pretty neat, I guess. But I mean, there's not a lot of plants. I mean, actually there's quite a few plants that are turning green, but not quite blooming yet, so it's a little hard to tell what everything is. But I just spent like a few minutes in the parking lot just seeking a bunch of things to see if I knew what they were, because I've come to learn you can't always study for everything. I mean, you can study as much as you want, but you just have to throw yourself into an environment at some point to really properly learn what the plants are in a new area. This giant tree, or grove of trees, I'm pretty sure is Platanus racemosa, California or Western Sycamore. Probably has what looks like sycamore leaves. I suppose it could be a non-native sycamore, but I want to presume it's a native one. It's got very, very typical sycamore bark. If you know what it looks like, it looks just like the bark of like a London plane tree. Another shrub I'm seeing very commonly over here is this guy, this really low-growing, spindly-looking shrub. This is Eriogonum fasiculatum, commonly known as the California buckwheat. It's a very odd name because there's quite a few species of buckwheat in California, but that's common names for you. And it certainly doesn't look like your typical buckwheat if you're more familiar with the ones in the deserty parts of the western United States rather than, coastal California. But it certainly is one. If you look at the flowers, I mean, it's hard to tell now because they're all dead and spent, but the fact that the inflorescence is somewhat umbellate, well, this plant is obviously not a member of the family Apiaceae, which is the plant family most known for having umbels or compound umbels, sort of helps give it away. But here it has these very long, thin, spindly leaves, which is one of the trouble of identifying plants in the California Chaparral region, is that a lot of plants have leaves like this, sort of small, kind of more longer than they are wide, but still quite small overall. So yeah, interesting plant. Here you go. There's a sign for you. I guess it's found in the East Mojave as well, if the common name is anything, or I mean the other common name is anything to go by. East Mojave buckwheat. I don't know, that's weird because the West Mojave is much closer than the East Mojave to this region. But anyways, let's continue moving on. Now, the main reason why the California ecoregion, or California bioregion, I guess more appropriately, has such unique plants is due to its climate. California is one of the few places with a Mediterranean climate around the world, which is that it has a warm to hot summers with mild winters that rarely get any frost, and a precipitation pattern that is predominantly wet, though maybe not very reliably so, in the winter, and quite dry in the summer. Most of the world, when it's the dry season, it is typically winter, at least in the warm tropical parts of the world. But here it's inverted, and though this isn't tropical at all, as I said before, the fact that it doesn't get any frost really makes it quite hospitable to many plants if it weren't for the very odd inverted precipitation pattern. It's not too dark for you guys. Let's turn up the ISO. But anyways, that has allowed a lot of really interesting species both to evolve here, but also survive, as they went extinct elsewhere during the last ice ages. This was a nice pocket of hospitable climate for them, if they could manage to survive the really weird precipitation pattern. But to be fair, most of the western United States has that precipitation pattern. Well, that's cool. So I have a fence we can see, I'm guessing it's one of the native Cholla species. You in coastal California. I couldn't tell you what the name is right now. It could be a different cactus as well, but that's what I'm guessing for the time being. It's got much shorter spines than the Choyas I showed you, which are members of the genus Cylindropuntia, of course, in the Mojave Desert. Certainly sets it apart a bit. I still won't want to run into one, but it might be more friendly. And that's from heading. Yeah, the California sort of floristic region is grouped together with the rest of the Madrean region, which includes the deserts of the American Southwest, sort of the Mexican highlands, and on some accounts, the sagebrushy deserts of like the Great Basin and Wyoming Basin. Though bioregions can get quite complicated if you really want to put a lot of stock into them and really look closely at them. So it is important to note this. The flora here is very heavily influenced by that of the Southwest, but also the general North American region as a whole. You see just how dominant the Eriogonum fasciculatum is out here. Most of that dead looking stuff is just Eriogonum fasciculatum that's starting to come back to life. Now here we have another good shrub of the California coastal region, or the California chaparral. This is lemonade berry, scientifically known as Rhus integrifolia. Rhus is the sumac genus, which is quite widely found throughout the United States, but because this is California, it's got to have its own unique species, or several species. I believe there's a couple other native chaparral Rhus species. This was one of the most common ones though. I guess its berries taste pretty nice, but we don't seem like they're quite ready yet. I don't think it's even blooming at the moment. And going off these leaves, which are quite thick and leathery, this plant, I'm presuming, is not deciduous, at least not during the winter. It must keep its leaves at that time. So yeah, calling it a shrub might be a bit of a misnomer. It's getting pretty tall, like up to, I guess, over 20 feet, this specimen, so that's pretty neat. Yeah, there's quite a lot of cool things to see here, if you know what to look for. What's wrong with that plant? That looks like a, hopefully I can find a better specimen later, but this looks like Malosma laurina, which is a monotypic genus in the family Anacardiaceae, and I believe this one does in fact have the toxic urushiol sap, at least when it's alive. This one clearly ain't doing so well. Again, another California coastal sort of plant. The California floristic province extends from very southernmost Oregon through the bulk of California, excluding like the Sierra Nevada mountain ranges and the deserts west of the Coast Ranges, and into the northern part of Baja California, again on the west side of the Peninsular Ranges, extending maybe about down to like Ensenada, or a little bit south of there. Further south, you get into the Vizcaino Desert, which has a similar climate to the coastal areas here, except it's much more dry. Rainfall is very sporadic even in the wet winter, but it's still very foggy, so that helps support a really interesting fog desert with some unique species. Okay, I gotta keep going because I'm gonna take forever if I just keep talking like this. Now, another thing I really couldn't believe about this place when I first got here was these plants, which I thought was some species I didn't know before, but upon closer inspection and a little bit of Googling, it turns out it actually is. This is Sambucus cerulea, the blue elderberry. I had no clue it grew here and was considered the same species, because it looks pretty different to me. Like, for one, they get huge here, like over 20 feet tall, but also for leaves and shoots seem to be quite a lot smaller than the ones you find in Utah, which is really interesting. So maybe it's a recognized subspecies, but maybe not. But certainly very notable, I think, just because that's my hand compared to them. Normally, like the leaves, and of course they're just starting to grow, but the leaves in Utah are like 3 inches or longer. I mean leaflets, but yeah, it's really crazy to see. And they're growing everywhere here. Like, there's quite common out here, what I've seen, but let's carry on hiking. Yeah, another common shrub you can find out here, an endemic of the California chaparral region. This is Heteromeles arbutifolia, commonly known as Toyon. It's a member of the rose family, and I feel like it looks almost a little bit like the Malosma laurina I showed you earlier, though you can tell it apart, mostly just because its leaves are sort of the same shape and size, but you can tell them apart because the leaves are serrated, or dentate, whatever you want to call it, and they sort of point upwards from the branches while the Malosma laurina hang down. I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. And also its inflorescence looks different. It's more spaced out, and its fruit, whether green now, will eventually turn a bright red and look very much like that, like a sorbus or you know, like a pyracantha, because it's very closely related to them. It's in the same tribe as the, you know, all those plants, as well as apples and pears. So it is, yeah, really interesting, and it grows here, and it's quite nice. Just because, I don't know, I say everything's quite nice. It just is. It's a cool looking plant. Meanwhile, Malosma laurina, which I found a living specimen of down there, as well as a dying specimen again. Maybe something's killing them. I hope not. But either way, this is a more healthy specimen. You can see its leaves are sort of drooping, somewhat similar shape and size, though margins are entire. And that's what its inflorescence looks like once it's spent. It kind of almost reminds me of like the smoke bush, like the Platanus. You see in cultivation sometimes, because I haven't seen it in the wild yet. I've not been to that part of the country where it grows, but that's what it looks like. Complex, dark, and from distance that's a very diffuse pattern because it's such a weird shape. But yeah, again, I do think it is potent in the same way poison ivy is potent, which there is a species here, or actually it's a poison oak, it's Toxicodendron something ever. Hopefully I see it, but not touch it. And this, I'm pretty sure, is Artemisia californica, the California sagebrush. Yet another sort of variation on a theme of Artemisia that is found in California, in the coastal area at least, or chaparral, whatever you want to call it. I kind of use the terms interchangeably, but they're not quite the same, of course. Look at its inflorescence. It's very clearly like an Artemisia, if you're familiar with them at least. It does look a lot like a sagebrush, but it's got very spindly stems. They're same kind of long, thin, but tiny leaves that a lot of the other plants around here have. This one's especially thin and spindly. That's long shoots. I wonder how many years of growth each of these like long, like sort of whip-like branches is. It might only be a couple, but it regenerates them up, and that's what I'm thinking it does. Okay, let's head on some more. Got another interesting climbing over these plants here. Those puffballs, I believe, must belong to a species of Clematis, which is in the family of Ranunculaceae. It's just a sort of hunch I have. The fact I can see some vines up there really confirms it for me, but I'm not sure what species it is. Whatever it is almost certainly something unique to the region here. I can look it up later, hopefully. But now we got another cool species of Baccharis. This is Baccharis salicifolia, which, as the name implies, this plant looks quite a lot like a willow, but the sunflower Asteraceae sort of cups we got here certainly give it away that it's at least not a willow. And Baccharis salicifolia is indeed what it is. I think this is actually something found much more widespread than just in the California Chaparral zone. I think you might be able to find it in Utah. I can't confirm that, but that's just something I've heard. It seems to be growing quite thick out here, which is cool. Got some more, I'm not sure what that tree is, but I do know we have some more the Sycamore species. I saw it earlier. Sycamores often are a bit of a riparian species, especially out west. Okay, here's another plant I really like the look of, this spindly bush here. This is Ribes speciosum, and I like it because of its weird looking flowers. Look at those things, just the way they hang down from the spindly thing. I thought this was almost for a second like some kind of tropical invasive, but it's not. It's a native plant that's, again, endemic to the California Chaparral region, going to Baja California. So weird looking. The stamen sticking down from there. Ribes are all members of the family Grossulariaceae. I don't know why I said all. It's really obvious if you know that a genus is a member of a family, that all members of it are going to be part of it. But either way, that is what it is. And it just looks super cool to me. Like I said, I thought it was a fuchsia for a second, and I think it's commonly called the Fuschia-flowered Gooseberry. So I feel a little smart about that. But, yeah, and this is how spindly the stem is. It's quite spiky too, like a lot of ribes are, but okay, let's carry on. Okay, it's starting to rain, and the trail I wanted to take has been closed, so I am going to wrap up this video soon, but first I want to talk about this plant. This is Mara macrocarpa, also known as Chilicothe, and it's a really good representative of the California chaparral plants as well. The whole genus is endemic to the west coast of the United States, with a few exceptions, like one is found in Arizona, and I think one goes into Idaho a little bit on the Snake River Plain, maybe, I don't know. Most of the species, however, are endemic to the California chaparral region, And it's just a cool plant overall. It's a member of Cucurbitaceae. It's commonly called manroot, is also because it produces a gigantic tuberous root underground. They can be like several hundred pounds, for which each year it sprouts these vines that then go dormant during the summer. It gets too hot and dry to really support continued growth. Yeah, looks very cucurbitaceous, and it's got twining tendrils all up and down the breast of the vines. I really need to work on making videos some more. I think I lost some of my touch, but I hope we can get it back and then some by the end of a video making season. Yeah, cool plant overall. I'm really glad to see it. Mara macrocarpa. Anyways, thanks guys, and see you next time. Oh, and I almost missed him, but here are its flowers. It's about as close as I can get. Well, inflorescence. Does look pretty cucurbitaceous. Oh, I'm sorry, guy. All right, see ya.